As you can see, we're going to be here all day up until 11 p.m. Pacific time. Be covering the election, going over the results later. You know what, tonight there's probably going to be lots of laughs and tears, so be sure to tune in. Which province, man? From what? Which province who? Yep, that's right. Carney for PM. Well, he already is PM. He's just going to renew his job. All right. The province am I in? I'm in Quebec. Je suis Québécois. Well, depends. I'm Anglophone, so to some Quebecois, I don't count. But I can assure you, I was born and raised here. I'm as Quebecois as you can get. Well, I mean, again, I'm an Anglophone, so who knows? What do you think of equalization payments? I think equalization payments are needed. Because as one province does well, other provinces don't do as well. For example, take Newfoundland. Newfoundland was one of the poorest provinces after the fisheries collapsed, and they got equalization payments that kept them afloat. And then, oh, look, they found oil. And then once they found oil and people got jobs, the province is now a have province, and they don't. They're the one they can sustain themselves, plus provide more money for equalization payments. Oh, for Quebec. Well, you know what? Quebec may get equalization payments, but they also do have a strong. We do have a strong economy here, and we also do have a lot of raw materials that they're going to be going for over the next couple of decades. Not to mention, like, not that I necessarily want them to build more hydro dams right now, but they can. They have diamond mines up north. They have all sorts of stuff. PP has to win. No one understands how bad it will get with another Liberal term. No, Princess, I'm sorry. I really think you're misguided here. Carney has a doctorate in economics. Like, you can't get any more of a financial mind than that. Good morning, Nancy. Yeah, no. Anyways, for equalization payments, I think we need them. I think Alberta needs to stop whining about it. Because once the oil dries up, or once the world no longer demands oil, what's Alberta going to do? They're going to get equalization payments. I said that we have a good economy in Quebec. It doesn't necessarily mean we export a lot of goods at the moment. But, you know what? Equalization payments just covers just the federal government giving money to provinces to cover services that are federally mandated, like the Medicare system. You honestly think a man with money cares middle class? Look at Trump. Okay, well, first of all, Trump is not a regular person. He's a bona fide sociopath, a narcissist. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. You can just hear him speak at how bigly he is. Carney has money, which is because of his hard work, not because of him getting a $400 million inheritance from his father, and then lying about all sorts of things to get more loans, and then screwing construction workers over when they build his projects. Anyways, Carney, he does care about the middle class because, like I said, he has a degree in economics, so he knows that for a good economy, we need a good middle class. We can't continue all this siphoning of all the money up to the top 1%, because it's going to collapse the economy. And yeah, then there will just be a revolution. What it says here? Trump is also rich. Yeah, Trump only cares about rich people. Carney knows that we need a middle class to be able to work properly. Do I own a home? I do not currently own a home, no. No. Houses here are really expensive. And I think the best person to bring down those prices is Carney. His housing plan is much, much better than Pierre Poilievre's. Yeah, but overall, Carney's platform wins, even if it was still like Trudeau. Like, his platform is, if it was the same platform, it would still be better than Pierre Poilievre's. But it's not Trudeau, and I know Pierre Poilievre likes to call Carney just like Trudeau, but that's just a very weak argument. Very weak. We have natural resources to be rich, sustainable country, which we should be using it. I agree that we should be using our resources in a sustainable way, because if we just, march forward with everything without taking environmental conditions and all that, we'd just be ruining the land. Look at Alberta. I'm sorry, the tar sands is just a mess with all these tailing ponds full of toxic, waste that is leaking into the ground and then leaking into the drinking water. There was a reservation several years ago that was getting all sorts of cancer from the tailing ponds. But of course you don't hear about it because the oil companies and the government of Alberta are in cahoots. They cover it up. They cover up leaks too. Canada had the second lowest growth in OECD under the Liberals. So it doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about growing our oil right now. It's what the levels are right now are fairly good, and we're going to be selling a lot to China, less to the United States, and China actually is giving us a better price for it. Americans get a huge discount. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, since this is my live. So let's see. Well, one of my, specialties on the Beaver Network is that I represent, or I half represent, because I have usually a co-host on my shows on Fridays. I am part of the LGBTQ community, if you couldn't tell. So I would like to talk about that, but however, let me see what else here. If we lose, how do we build back stronger? How about we talk about that? If we lose today, if Pierre Poilievre wins, how do we build back stronger? Well, first of all, if we want to rebuild if we lose, which I don't think we will, we first of all have to really switch our provinces to more progressive governments. That's where the next key thing that we need to do. Because here in Quebec, we have the CAQ government, which is not just conservative, but they also discriminate against language minorities, especially the Anglophone community. I know the Anglophone community sure isn't as big as it used to be, but this is our home as well, and we belong to be here. Ontario has DOFO, Doug Ford, and he's been tearing apart their the Medicare, which is horrible. He obviously wants to push for private, and that's why he's underfunding their health. I think it was over the pandemic. I think the federal government gave them about $12 billion for pandemic relief and stuff like that. And I think it just went missing. Actually, he underpaid. There was a budget for education and a budget for hospitals and all that, and he just underpaid them. He just didn't give them some of the money that was already in the budget. Or NDP government. I mean, the next provincial government in Alberta is probably going to be NDP, which is good. Manitoba has NDP. British Columbia has NDP. So, you know what? We need Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario. Maybe they could all go NDP. Quebec, well, we don't have an NDP in Quebec. We have Quebec Solidaire, who, for the most part, I do support, only not the sovereignty part. I do believe that Canada needs to go forward together, because as soon as, like, let's say Quebec separates, which it won't, what do you think Trump's going to do? He's going to just march right on in. Anyway, so yeah, we need to get more progressive governments in the provinces. And if we're going to lose to PP today. And that's the best way to go, because then we need to fund Medicare and more fund education. And just funding education is going to help a big time. Because I know you conservatives in the chat are not going to like this, but it is proven that people who lean conservative and to the right, usually they have lower IQs than the average person in their country. Hi, Moose. Good morning.
Good. Sorry, I just had to make a coffee before I did anything.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, and to your point, you're making some very good points. And one thing I just wanted to add, especially when it comes to people talking about Pierre in the comments and how much better he would be, I want to point to a couple things that really shed light on that. One thing being in Ontario with Doug Ford, especially when he talks about the rights of the homeless and essentially scrapping them. Doug Ford has been talking about that for months, as well as now you have Pierre Poilievre that's saying, hey, I'm going to implement a 3-strike rule. Oh, also, by the way, I'm going to charge people that live in encampment. So that way, the 3-strike rule, if you're homeless, you're just going to be jailed after 3 times completely, and we'll throw away the key. So you want to criminalize homelessness instead of fucking helping them. I apologize for my language, but that's what PP wants to do, Pierre Poilievre. So anyone that says that he's going to help and fix things for people, no, he's going to incarcerate the most vulnerable and the people that need it the most.
Yep, exactly. Like I can't, like, that's just so, I don't know. It's such a stupid idea. Like,
yeah, and sorry to everyone in the comments saying about twisting words. No, you can go look up him saying that he's going to start giving the powers to law enforcement to completely scrap the encampments and charge people. I'm sorry. It's his words. If you haven't seen it, go look it up and be informed. I'm tired of catering to conservative voters that don't pay attention. Do your job as a voter, go look into your information, and be informed.
Yeah. He said that, I think it was last week at a rally. I don't remember which one.
I saw a press conference of it, so that's one thing that I got. Princess D, is that all I have? Yes, because he said it. It's on video. Go look into it. I'm sorry, but if you haven't seen it, that's your fault, not ours. Get with the times. Get yourself informed. Sorry, I know I'm spicy this morning, but
yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good because I'm still like a little bit sleepy. So that's fine. Actually, I wanted to answer. I think Princess asked me if I even have a job. You know what? I do have a job. It's a full-time job. That's why I'm here in the morning, because once I'm done here, I have to go work. Not that I have to answer to you, but you know what? People on the left have jobs. And yes, maybe people on the left, there's, like, for instance, I'm a member of the NDP. And, oh, what was that? Sorry, I got a message. Anyways, I'm a member of the NDP. I didn't vote NDP this time, but a lot of their meetings I've gone to, and there's people from all across the. What's the word I'm looking for?
Spectrum?
Oh no, yeah, spectrum. No, sorry, like financial, like their financial levels. So like, there's rich people who've attended NDP. There's middle class.
Really?
There's people who are under the poverty line. Where I had been to, I've actually volunteered once. Not, I don't know why. Uh, I was 17 at a dinner with conservatives, and they were all rich there. They all had nice cars and nice houses. No one underneath the middle class attended that.
It's funny that you say that because that's the difference between liberals, conservatives, independents, greens, all of those things. And I'm not trying to fangirl liberal or conservatives at all, but what I would say is they are reaching out to our youth. They're finding many, many ways to reach out to our young men. Many of my first experiences were conservative as well, because conservatives were reaching out and looking for that youth vote and doing the work. So, because they reached out, I had this feeling like I aligned to them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And connected with them. And for the majority of my young life, I thought I aligned to conservatives until I had a son with autism. And then I did some history. I was like, oh, I'm fucked.
Thank you for the finger hearts, Brandon.
Yeah, to go with Miss Radical, like the household I grew up in, I will fully admit, like my father wasn't the greatest when it came to minorities. Let's say it that way. And growing up in an environment where you're subjected to a certain point of view, whether it be political or based on human rights or lack thereof. Um, it's hard when you bust out of that sort of thing, and kind of see reality, right? Like I moved away from home, I moved to the city, and my perspective really opened up and showed me like, hey, the stuff that I've been told up until now, yeah, it really isn't the greatest stuff. And that's where life experience comes in. And I think a lot of people need to go out and get some life experience, touch some grass, and talk to people that have been disenfranchised over the years from the conservatives.
Yeah, exactly. You really need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes to understand them.
And
And
I
hmm?
sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to share how angry I was when I didn't know. So like coming into having a family and getting married and thinking I had done all the right things, and I had two kids in Stephen Harper's era. I was paying $1,500 a month in Calgary, Alberta for childcare. Stephen Harper made comments like he wasn't worried about housing for people like me because he frankly didn't think I would ever be a homeowner. Those were debilitating to me.
Hmm.
And I voted for him because he said that he was going to add to autism funding. That's what caught my attention. It wasn't anything else about him. Um, these we get manipulated very easily by the things we don't apologize. We all live. We all live, and so do our kidlets. So don't worry. Um, we live in this world. Do you want me to just continue talking and you can go deal with what you have to deal with?
No, you can. I just my kitten. I put her in a room so she doesn't harass the other cats at night. And I don't want to let her out early because then she'll always ask to get out this early while I'm still sleeping usually. So
I get that. So I remember years ago so in my youth, there were a lot of conservative around me. So I had this feeling of like, you know, what is that? Nostalgia maybe? Like I need to vote this way because my dad votes this way and because my uncle votes this way. And, this idea that I had to have this vote to go this way when it was going 100% against me and my children. And, that realization that I was just going along with it and going along with it. And I think that's what a lot of Gen Xers like myself and millennials kind of realized, that we were just going along with it. And people would say, well, why don't you work a little harder? Well, you're holding 3 jobs and you're trying to pay your rent and you've got 2 kids and you're trying to buy into this system, but this system doesn't give a fuck about you.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, and just to kind of tie with that too. Sorry, Princess D in the comments made a statement about letting too many immigrants into the country. Um, Listen, the system has been broken. Whether you want to talk about healthcare, education, any of that, the systems are broken. They were broken before or without immigration. Okay, so blaming immigrants for things has absolutely nothing to do with the facts. The facts are that the systems are broken because the vast majority of them, conservatives have been trying to privatize for a decade, right? Little baby steps. That's what we're seeing. And, regardless of who comes to the country or how many people there are, the systems are broken for the people. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that as a Pierre Poilievre supporter, right? He says all of Canada is broken. I believe we can fix the systems and make sure that people are taken care of. Hence why Carney, as well as Jagmeet Singh for the NDP and Green are all on board, and the Bloc are on board with continuing pharmacare, continuing dental care. Because if you take care of the people, your country will do better.
You're so right, Moose. Honestly, like, if you're looking at an army, if you had your own personal army, okay, are you going to starve them?
No, exactly. And that's,
Are you going to give them housing?
of course.
Right? You're going to give them medical supplies because you want that army in every aspect to flourish, right?
Absolutely. And that's
Go ahead, take it away.
no, sorry, I was just gonna say that's a perfect analogy because even even with that, like I realize we're having issues within kind of our military right now as well. But the fact is yeah, you have to treat the people you're taking care of. So if you're federal government taking care of the people of the country, it's a lot like a military, right? You have to make sure people are able to have 3 square meals, their health is good, they're happy. And it really goes to show, especially when you're talking about the differences between conservatives and other parties, where conservatives will say, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to work harder. If you're not making enough money at your job, well, get a different job or get another career. Okay, but like the jobs that are making minimum wage was set up. That was the minimum amount of money that you could make to be able to live, to be able to take care of yourself and your family. Hell, it was what, the 50s, where 50s, 60s, somewhat into the 70s, where if you were making minimum wage as a single individual, even if you had a family, okay, you could live off of one income as a family
100%.
and
Yep.
still go for holidays, still take time off, and enjoy your life. Now, at minimum wage, you have to work 80 hours a week, and you'll be lucky to be able to afford all your bills plus food.
And we're not selfish people. That's the part that really gets me. We
Mhm.
only want the same things that our parents had. We want to get by. We want to have a square. We want to have 2.2 children and a pet. And we want to go making a modest income and go to work. And when I say modest, I don't mean modest. I mean in the sense of like we just want to go tool away at our job that we're skilled at doing and be left alone to go do it and come home and do our lives.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. We want to work, and for I'll use myself for example. I want to go to work all week, and come the weekend, I want to sit in my brother's backyard and have a campfire and have a good time, or I want to go camping on the weekend and actually enjoy life, not have to sit at home, can't afford to do fuck all, and then wait for the next week to start so you can just get to the grind again, and hopefully you make enough to pay the bills at the end of
Oh,
Mhm.
progressive. I can't wait till the day when we're all sitting beside a campfire together.
the month.
On progressive, pacey. We're all just sitting there hanging by the fire. What a good
Fuck
night
yeah.
that would be.
Yeah. I love to go camping, so I'd be there. I used to camp a
Yeah,
lot when I was
and
younger.
my biggest point is just like this is the grind. This is what we have to do in today's world. And I'm not talking about Canada. I'm talking about the globe as a whole, right? Like people need to remember, like, yeah, Canada has its struggles and we're facing issues, but most of the issues that are going on aren't just in Canada. It's a global wide issue, right? Whether it's
Hmm.
housing, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the list goes on. The globe is facing a lot of the same issues. So to sit there and blame, like I see in the comments all the time so far, blaming liberals for this and blaming liberals for that, is it liberals' fault that in the United States, the homeless numbers are getting extremely exacerbated, just like in Canada? Is it the liberals' fault that oil and gas monopolies have really made record profit hand over fist, and governments around the world are subsidizing these companies while they gouge us at the pumps, regardless of what country we're in?
Of
All
course,
these.
it's the dehumanization of individuals.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm done ranting for now.
Did I run too fast over that? I'm so sorry, Moose. We're gonna have to work on our banter. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm kind of ranting, so I'm going to open it up for you guys because
I
Yeah.
like his
And
moves.
I just also wanted to go back to what Princess said about the immigrants. I don't think that Princess realizes that the provinces ask for a certain number of immigrants, um, and we were missing a lot of people for jobs, and that's one big reason why provinces asked for so many people.
yeah, and that's one thing too, right? The provinces negotiate with the federal government as per what they need in terms of population, whether they need people in certain sectors because the numbers of workers in the sectors are down. So they kind of focus on, hey, we need people for this sector. Ontario focuses on we need people for healthcare,
Mhm.
which Doug Ford negotiated with the federal government for immigration numbers to go to Ontario, right? And then those same conservatives, whether it's Doug Ford, whether it's Daniel Smith in Alberta, whether it's in New Brunswick, I'm sorry, I can't remember not New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, under Tim, I can't remember his last name, I apologize. But, they are the ones that set up the immigration numbers based on what they need. And then they turn around and, sorry for lack of better words, bitch about immigration numbers. Okay, well then stop negotiating those numbers with the federal government.
Yeah. Yep. And someone asked about predictions, which I don't know if I'll be able to do it here. Anyways, I put up. I have a list here of predictions of what's going to happen tonight. A list. So I give the Liberals 193 seats, Conservatives 125, the NDP 8, Greens 1, the Bloc 6, PPC 0, and Independent 0.
Okay, so wait a minute. I
Actually,
didn't hear
if you
that.
guys too, I posted that link in our Discord. If you guys wanted to participate in that as well.
How many seats did you say the Liberals had?
193. Well,
And
that's what I
then
predict they'll have.
conservatives?
125.
Okay, that's doable.
That's yep.
So
It's not great, but it's doable.
I would just like to point out here very quickly to Aries to reply to her. Not true. My brother has applied all over, and our area does not have a single job offer. Well, then there's other places, and I'm sorry that you feel that the immigration that we required, which again, someone did bring up the point. Danielle Smith wanted to double the population of Alberta to 11 million people, and Tim Houston wanted to bump it up. We have a million, although they don't seem to stay because our numbers have dropped since we hit that million. But she rescinded the offer to double the people because the infrastructure is not there. Now, I lived in Alberta. I spent a lot of my time more in the central region and things. And when I was in Calgary last summer, I saw there's a lot of growth that is happening in that place, in those areas. So I'm not quite sure why people are getting upset about the immigration. If the provinces would actually spread the hell out. Like, when did Toronto, right, become the GTA? When did all of those places, right? Because everybody wants to be part of these cities. But they want to have all of these. Well, that's where all the infrastructure is. So if we push the provinces and these big corporations, and I can say that as someone who worked for 2 major telecom companies in this country, they do not like to put in the infrastructure because the profit is coming out of their pocket, right? That money is taking from them, even though they're going to be getting those people that are coming back. So all these new builds and stuff, you will often see that we'll say Rogers, Bell, TELUS have gone in and they have installed that if you buy a home here, we will give you, this is your package and all of these things and blah, 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 to entice you to come in. But we need to be spreading out more. And if the infrastructure was there, we would have more coverage of things like that. We have crap coverage here for cell phones in this country. I can say that. I know that. I've seen the maps. I've been in some areas. You can't get coverage. And that, in this day and age, should not be happening because everybody and their dog has a cell phone.
Colleen, I'm so mean when the people for the cell phones call me. Like the Bell, they'll call me and they'll say, "Oh, Mrs. Radical, you've done so well and we want to help you and we're going to give you this and that." And I'm like, "No, you give me more. You give me double that."
Exactly. You need to.
I said, "You got to get on your fucking knees. I just bailed your company out." Yeah. And I'll say it to the cable. I am actually probably their worst nightmare when they come to call.
Trust me, I have over the years. I have learned to play the game. And you do need to know how to play a game with people when you talk to them on the phone and when you deal with them. If you call me up and you are full of piss and vinegar, well, trust me, you're going to get double of it back with tons of salt to be added to it. I am not the person that you want to do that to. But if you were nice and you were kind, certainly, I will work with you to get you exactly what you are looking for and exactly what you need. But you're right. It costs us an absolute arm and a leg in this country. We have the most expensive cell phones. Why?
And just to add to that quick, one of the biggest things that I point out when talking about telecommunications, especially cell phone, Bell, Rogers, any of it, you ever notice how when you get a new phone after 6 months, you start getting messages from your carrier saying, "Hey, you can upgrade now and get a new phone and this and that." That's part of the problem right there within the telecommunications is people want to have the latest, right? So they're willing to pretty much tack the cost of another phone onto their already existing cost of the phone that they have to have the newest gadget. I myself wait until my phone craps out. So I've had phones like 4, 5, 6 years after my contract is done, and they try to pressure me like you wouldn't believe to try and get a new phone after that point in time. And I think if more people would just wait until their phone has run out of life, for lack of better words, it would really help things bring down the cost of cell phones, bring down the cost of service, because we're pretty much handing them our money by continuing to just get the latest stuff, latest plans, all that sort of stuff. And good night, Miss Radical. Get some sleep.
Good night, Miss Radical.
Good night, Miss
See you later tonight.
But yeah, and that's just a matter of, because we're a consumer market, regardless of Canada, US, globally. It's a consumer market, and we want the latest gadgets, so we're going to pay for them, right? It's
exactly. And you are totally right, Moose. You nailed it. Because I'm going to give you a little, when you talked about the cell phones, it is like that with everything. Now, on the other side of the world, across the pond and into the Asian areas, they have, their technology outshines anything here in North America. So here's the kicker. When you talked about what the new cell phone, and the new cell phone comes out, you walk in, you buy a brand new cell phone. When you walk out, the brand new model is updated already there. That's part of it. And people do not dispose of these things properly. And the one thing I can say is I do know that at least one telecommunication company that, yes, they will support people that are leaving foster care. And they will give the cell phones, when you trade them in some cases, which is a good thing, they will provide that cell phone with a plan for the next, I think, 3 years or so that person has the ability to have a phone, keep in communications with adults that they've had, throughout their lives. If they, did not become parts of families and whatever, because if you age out, you age out. But at least with that, it gives them as an anchor for something, if we're getting a job, for trying to find apartments, to find, educations and things like that. They have that. That is the one thing I can say. And I'm not knocking them for providing, whatever for money for entertainments and whatnot. But when it comes to the technology, especially when it comes to a television, the only channel that you will ever receive in North America that's going to come in 4K of any type is sports. And the only reason it does come in is because there's how many people that cannot attend the game of whatever sport it is. But they always want to be able to see as if they are there, which is why we have the 4K TV. But there's only, those sports channels are the only thing that comes in 4K. Unless you get a movie. But again, not everybody watches movies, right? So we're spending how much money on these monstrous televisions? Who the hell needs an 80-inch television in your home? Nobody.
I do,
right? So again, these are the kinds of things that we don't need, but big corporations, big business, and these folks, again, I don't want to name names, but yet they're over in, we know which companies they are. 8K televisions are being sold. Do you know how much power it costs for an 8K TV? That's still a lot, even comparison to how much, a 4K is.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to really get the picture that you're looking for, and unless you're a diehard sports fan who watches sports 24 hours a day of every type, you don't need that 4K. You're not going to get that 4K picture except on the sports. That's it.
No, absolutely. And just quickly to Aries' last comment, talking about there's more important issues in telecommunications. Sure, you're absolutely right. But the overall kind of perspective, telecommunications is one aspect where the capitalist mindset has really made it so, it's harder for us to get by with less quality of service for our dollar, right? Whether you're talking about telecommunications, whether you're talking about private healthcare, whether you're talking about oil and gas, all these companies have been making record profits for how many years in a row now, quarter after quarter. And there's people out there that say, oh, well, they have to re-incur their costs and shit. Let's go back and look, and I'll fully call out the NDP along with the Conservatives when they gave Bell how much money, and Bell pissed it away like it was,
Exactly.
So
let's look at the example of the Hudson Bay, and the same thing, that their board of directors are getting all of these massive bonuses, but the actual people who were selling these things that were supposed to make commission aren't getting that. Tell me how that makes any sense.
No, absolutely, and
that was a Canadian company. What the hell is happening here?
Yep. And
how do you not take care of the people? That makes, to me, again, makes no sense. And this is why corporate greed needs to stop running the world.
Yep.
And that ties into my other point. You talked about Alberta earlier, and I'll kind of segue into it. Oil and gas is prime example of this sort of stuff, right? Where oil and gas companies get massive subsidies and tax cuts from the governments on the federal level, as well as in Alberta. the Alberta government normally ends up paying for cleanup costs for oil rigs and such. They take care of so much more with tax money that they should, right? The companies should be paying their own cleanup costs. The companies should be paying to take care of any issues that they have, but they don't. The Alberta government does. So when
Right.
taxpayers are subsidizing oil companies and gas companies, and we don't get a damn thing for it because, yeah, the average cost of gas and oil went down because carbon tax was taken off. But at the end of the day, they did still raise the price. And yeah, you can say it fluctuates. It absolutely fluctuates. And why does it fluctuate? I don't know. It depends how the oil company's feeling that day or the gas companies as to what they're going to charge us, right? Do we want to make, 132 million of profit today on gas, or do we want to make 140 million profit today on gas? That's essentially what it boils down to. And you had the government essentially saying, hey, you can make all that money. We're still going to give you tax cuts. We're still going to give you loopholes. We're still going to give you subsidies. Why are we doing this? Because it's the capitalist system. It's greed, and we need to start helping the people, not the entities or corporations, right? Because trickle-down economics doesn't fucking work. We've been living that experiment for how many decades? It does not work. It's time to move away from trickle-down economics, stop giving companies and corporations money, and start giving it to the people that can actually fucking use it. Sorry.
There was a study actually done that if the government gave people the bailouts, for instance, instead of the corporations, the economy would bounce back faster.
Exactly. Like if we had not, I mean, people want to sit there and again piss and moan about everything that happened, but COVID was a massive thing that happened internationally, and Canada has bounced back better than most of the other countries that are in this world. If people hadn't been, you're sitting there getting upset about the JT caused all our problems. You know what? Had Harper actually stayed in and only did this whole thing about Jerry or Trent, take your own advice there, buddy. Yeah, and he had been in charge when we had been in during COVID. Sure, there would have been no CERB, and how many more bankruptcies would we have had? And how many? Trent, you really need to educate yourself, buddy. And I may just have to say you need to leave soon. Anyway.
Okay, he's being muted for 5 minutes now.
Well, that's good. Thank you there, Sean. You're on the ball, man. It's so early, too. Anyway, but the fact being is that people really do need to start up and realize what a need and a want is. Mm-hmm. And you need to stop looking. I mean, the big corporations shouldn't be getting the bailouts. Because if all you're getting a bailout for is because you can pay your board of directors to get their bonuses, you tell me what the hell they did to earn that bonus. Like, again, I'm from Nova Scotia. Emera is a massive company and the only company we have for our power. And if you have, we have a lot of storms that happen here because, again, I'm an Atlantic Canadian. So if we get power linesmen that are up there and they have to go out in crappy weather to reconnect so that people have their power, and I require power in my home. I have someone who has a hospital bed, 2 power lift chairs. If I don't have power, we have a problem. And so that is something that needs to stay on all of the time. There is zero excuses on why someone who's never climbed a power line before or done any work on a power line or climbed a pole is getting, $1 million of bonus when it's the actual people on the ground that are doing that and they're not getting those bonuses. Yeah. Because despite what anybody and any leader wants to tell you, our electricians don't capture that lightning and connect it to the copper line. Okay? And if you believe that, well, guess what?
Wait, they don't blow electricity out of the sky?
I'm sorry, what'd you say there, Moose?
I said they don't. You mean electricians don't pull electricity out of the sky?
No, they are not Thor. Despite what they all think. I mean, I know some of them really have power trips. Some of them are really, they're like, I'm okay. I'm less lightning the better, right? But, despite what they may tell you when they get, educated, they are not Thor, even though, some think they are.
And Aries, I just want to address, CERB wasn't a joke. CERB helped so many people. Sure, there were people who took advantage of it, of course. But I rather that the outcome that happened with people taking advantage of it than all the people who needed it just, I don't know, would have become homeless, would have starved to death. Who knows? But CERB helped a lot of people. It wasn't a joke.
Exactly.
And that's partly why Canada came out so well on the other end.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like, yes, though I will agree. CERB had its issues, but again, the issues led to people taking advantage of that system or that thing put in place to help people. So that's not on the government. That's on the people that took advantage of it. And furthermore, back to bolster your point, Sean, when you look at how countries weathered the pandemic, so to speak, and how Canada came out of the pandemic, we really did so much better than so many other countries, even within the G7. Yes, was it rushed through? Was there issues? Was there holes in the program? Absolutely. But
Yes.
again, to your point, Sean, it helped so many people that needed it at the time. Yes, we can criticize how things were rolled out. Yes, we can criticize the aftermath. Like, you know, I know a couple people that I think had to pay way too much taxes back because of CERB. So there were absolutely issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say there was no issues whatsoever. But at the end of the day, Sean's right. It helped so many people stay out of poverty through a time that the globe has not seen something of the nature since, you know, early 1900s, being the Spanish flu, right? So keep that in context, everybody. Like, the globe rushed to take care of people, whether it's financially or to deal with the new outbreak, which was COVID, which we really didn't have that much information about in the beginning, right? Things evolved. We found out more. We figured more out. But, you know, again, I go back to the Spanish flu. It's the same process that the world went through with the Spanish flu. I just argue there was a lot more mechanisms put in place by governments, especially Canadian government, to help people get through those hard times.
Agreed.
And Aries, I
Like
don't
my
know where you're
brothers-
getting it from. Sorry?
Go ahead, Sean. No, go ahead, Sean.
I'm just going to address Aries saying that people were making more money on CERB than their job. Who? I don't know anyone who got CERB who was making more money on CERB than their actual job.
That's like the
Exactly.
same. That's like the same talking point of when I hear people say, "Oh, well, people just live on government handouts."
Actually, I'd like to say, to the point of where she talked about people making more money on CERB, the only people who made more money on CERB were the people who actually wound up being on, again, community assistance or income assistance, because they had lost their jobs. But if you knew how much a person was making on basic income, which in some cases, if you don't actually have an address of your own and you wind up living in, say, a sheltered area or whatever, you made less than, what was it, $300. But if you had a job, you know, and whatever the case might be, and the, you know, landlord decides to jack it, now you have no home. At least with the CERB, yes, that was the only time you were getting more money, was during that, because the rest of the time people were making their own money.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it was helping people actually live. Did people buy homes while they were getting CERB? Yes.
And,
Like my
and
brother
other-
would be a fine industry. He was they worked in glass blowing by mouth. And so if you are having a, you know, communicable disease that's circulating around the world, you can't even guarantee that the temperature is going to kill the virus itself, right? So that was an industry that had to completely close, and it never came back. So yeah, there is something that did lose, you know, lost his job. So had to have the CERB, and yes, between him and his wife, they did manage to get their home.
And
Yeah,
Trent, where did you get that number about the lowest GDP growth in the G20? Because last I heard, we
Exactly.
had, I think, was it the second best growth
Yeah,
in the
That
G7?
was what I heard.
Yeah, if you go look into that, we actually did quite well, and as well to Aries, and to get back to the CERB a little bit quick here. The biggest thing that I point out is if there was somebody that was quote unquote, like said in the comments, were making more money on CERT than they were working. Well, that's not a criticism of the fucking CERT program. That's a criticism of the companies that weren't paying their workers a livable
Exactly.
wage. Okay, that's the corporate mechanism. That's the issue in that scenario. And just to bolster my point, had anyone here, I don't care if it's Aries, Trent, Sean, anyone on the panel, think about the fact that I'll use Ontario because I'm in Ontario, so it's easier for me to use. But you know how long it's been since Ontario has updated, whether you want to talk about Ontario Works, which would be, for lack of better terms, welfare, or the disability program. Like, we did see a bit of a rise in disability in terms of how much people got. But when it comes to, say, welfare, right, that hasn't been updated in probably a couple decades. I could be wrong. It could be a shorter period of time. But the fact of the matter is right now, especially in Ontario, as a single individual, I'll use as an example because that's myself. But when you're talking about this stuff, my rent, and I'm going to give this for an example, my rent is $865 a month. Sorry. And under the current Ontario Works, aka welfare, the most a single individual can get is $600 and some odd dollars. Exactly. So you tell me, is that $600 some odd dollars going to cover my rent, my groceries, my electricity, my phone bill, and I'm not saying I'm on it, but my point being is, when people want to say, oh, lazy people live off of handouts or government programs, you can't live off of that stuff, right? It's set up to force you to go and find a job, which, sure, everyone, if you're able to work, absolutely, right? I don't disagree with, hey, if you're able to work, then by all means, like, go have a career, have a job, have a good life, and hopefully you can have a good life with your career or job. But, shitting on people that are on government programs that really can't scratch by or can't survive right now, they're not the problem. Again, coming back to corporations, corporate greed is the problem. They get all the money and we get fucked over. So, maybe tune your world perspective, because shitting on the little guy that's doing the worst off ain't going to help anything, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, Trent, you keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. Actually, this is a good time to maybe, what do you guys think about UBI?
UBI is one of the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, what is it? The EBI?
Universal Basic Income?
Oh,
the party has talked about it before.
I think it's a wonderful idea because, again, I'm not knocking anybody who's ever had to use either, whether you want to call it welfare, if you want to call it income assistance, if you want to call it a disability income, whatever the case might be. I'm not knocking anybody because I've been in those places before. I understand exactly what those is. I have, and when I was able to work, I provided back to food banks and to other shelters and things like that, so that people who had been in my shoes could have a little bit of an easier time, if it made them, whatever the case might be. Yeah. I am completely for a universal basic income. And I'd just like to note something here. My mom is now, she will be 82 on the 25th of May. When she had her last child, which was because my mother was classified as, now here you go, folks, a geriatric mother, at the age of 37. And there are some people who are having babies, their first babies at 37. Anyway, when she got 6 months off with my brother at the time, which now we've all know has doubled, if not even in some cases now, I think it's actually 3 times the amount, she wrote a letter, and I believe it was actually True Chrétien at the time. Or was it Mulrooney? One of the two. And she wrote down about this basic income, because the amount of dealing with 4 children and having a husband that worked full-time And the amount of things that she did around her home and took care of all of the things, plus running around with 4 kids, taking them to doctors, doing all of these appointments, checking in with teachers, all of this was something that was work because it made the house flow. And that was a guaranteed thing. Women would be able to be feeling that they wouldn't have had to ask your husband, can I have? Could I borrow? And I do know of some women, can I have the bank card so I can go and do those things? Those things still happen. And as someone who is totally dead set against that, no woman should have to ask anybody for their bank card so that they can pay for something that's part of their house. I definitely think we should all there should be the option of a universal basic income. And if you need it, then it's available to you.
Yeah. I just want to address a couple of things here. So Aries, first of all, when you ask who's going to pay for UBI, did you ask who's going to pay for the tax cuts that Pierre Poilievre has proposed? Because it's the same thing. It's going to cost us money as well. Second thing is that UBI has been studied, not just in Canada, but in other countries, and it's shown to work. It actually reduces costs in the long run. And Trent, it's not a dumb idea. It doesn't put anyone down. So first of all, UBI would end up replacing a lot of programs like welfare or income assistance. It would also replace things like the OAS, an old age security, stuff like that. But it also it brings people out of poverty. When you bring people out of poverty, crime goes down. And crime goes down, we need less police, or at least they can end up doing other things instead of going after petty theft, stuff like that. They also, when people are out of poverty, they lead healthier lives on average, so they don't have to use the Medicare system as much. All those things lead to savings, and UBI would reduce costs in the long run for a lot of programs. And
Yeah,
that's proven.
And to bolster your point, Sean, I just want to kind of give a bit of a breakdown for the people that are making comments, such as Aries and Trent. So for anyone that doesn't understand UBI, the biggest thing that I point out, and this is on the latest information and breakdown that I have or have seen, so I apologize if I'm not up to date on this. However, from my understanding of the construct of UBI, let's say the government of Canada sets the poverty line at $40,000. So essentially, if you make $40,000 or less, you are considered under the poverty line, and it's hard for you to survive. What UBI would do would be say, let's make it so the basic amount that we want people to have on a yearly basis is say 43,000, right? So just above that poverty line, just enough to make it so you can get by and hopefully be able to better your scenario or your circumstances at the time moving forward. Now, with that being said, if you make more than $40,000 a year, you would not qualify for it. So you wouldn't be paying out people that don't need it, first and foremost. Second of all, again, like was pointed out before, I believe, Sean, you pointed it out, if we were to go with a UBI system, that would mean that welfare and disability would no longer be relevant, or unemployment as well, right? It would all fall under UBI. And in a lot of cases, the government would be paying out less money through the UBI system than they would through the 3 or 4 different faculties that we use now. Again, using welfare, disability, unemployment insurance. I'm sorry, I know there's another one, but I can't think of it right now. But point being is, instead of having it all kind of scattered in different systems, different faucets of the government, which costs the government more because you need more people to run those systems, If you amalgamate it into a universal basic income under one program, it would save Canadians money. It would save the Canadian government money, because first and foremost, you wouldn't need as many employees to run that program that you do to run the 4 or 5 different ones we have right now, right? So it would cut costs for the government, leading to costing the government less, which means the country would prosper more while the people benefit more and are able to take care of themselves financially better. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with Quis Tufu. Sorry if I can't pronounce your name. Part of what universal basic income is no matter how much money you get, everyone gets the UBI. I agree with that part. I don't really agree with it cutting off at a certain part. I know the numbers you just used were not fictional, but like for an example, that's the whole point of the universal basic income, was that everyone gets it no matter how much money you make.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Like, I get what you're saying, and I do agree to an extent, but I have a hard time with that only because, like, if somebody's making $275,000 a year, do they need UBI?
Exactly. That's my point.
No,
Right?
and
Like,
I agree with that.
if they're making that amount of money.
I agree that they may not need it, but it just, the whole thing is that it's universal. That's partly part of the name, but I think it'll just go back into the economy. Remember, this is not money that they're giving to corporations, it's giving to individual people. So, like, even if someone makes $100K a year and they get $20,000 extra, that's more money that they'll spend on either, a new car or maybe renovating their house.
That would be great for the economy. Absolutely. All right. So I won't disagree with you on that. It would stimulate the economy, because you're right. Somebody that gets that extra, say, 20 grand, like you said, would go out and spend it because they've got that play money. Absolutely. It would help the economy. But at the end of the day, that extra 20 grand that somebody making $145,000 a year got, that 20 grand could go to somebody that, say, made, I don't know, $26,000 a year, and they would spend it, but they would spend it on things they need, not things that they want. And that's where the biggest issue I find, right? It's like talking about Jesus, right? For anybody that's a believer in the chat, you take care of your flock. If a sheep goes missing, are you going to care about the rest of your flock when they're okay? No, you're going to focus on the one that is missing, right? There's one person, or there's one sheep that needs help. You're going to go help that sheep. So why are we helping the ones that don't need help? That's where I come from. So sorry if that.
I'm saying no. I'm with you, Moose. Totally.
I understand, but let's take your sheep example. So the way I'm looking at universal basic income, maybe all the sheep are okay, but they're all getting their minimum, even if like one's healthier than another, they're still getting what they need, the basic minimum. So I don't know. I kind of think that, I know a lot of the people who talk about universal basic income from a point of economics, they think it should be for everyone, not just the lower paid people or the people.
I think if you want to come up with something in terms of, and not you, just in general, like if something were to happen that, sure, if there's a way to make it so everybody kind of gets something, I just think that the idea of, it's like, to me, it's like Pierre saying we're going to cut GST on home buying for everyone up to, homes worth $1.4 or $1.5 million. And I've said it before, so if anybody has seen my lives, they'll know where, like, if you're buying a home worth $1.5 million, do you really need a fucking GST cut? Because How much do you need to put down? How much money do you need to have to be able to spend $1.5 million on a home?
Yeah, you need 10% now.
Exactly. So that's where I'm like, at the end of the day, I agree that, sure, at some point, sure, if we can give everybody something, That'd be fantastic. But in the meantime, until we can do that, we do need to focus to everybody being on the same level ground. And then we can figure out, okay, where do we go from here? But we don't have people on level ground right now, right? We have people down in the sewers, for lack of better words, a bad analogy. But some people are so low in the sewers, and you have people at the top of skyscrapers. And not saying you, but just in a general, people are arguing, well, everybody should get something. Okay, but why should the guy on the top of a skyscraper get something when the guy in the sewer needs a rope to get out?
Can I say something? Good morning.
Absolutely.
Good morning.
morning,
I've just been listening here, and the whole idea of UBI is that everyone gets it. It's called Universal Basic Income for everybody. Now, the way it would generally work would be everyone gets it, regardless of if you're in a relationship with someone else and you're living with someone else. Everyone of legal age would get it, right? Now, where it comes time to think about who doesn't need it would be at tax time, right? So if you don't need it, if you are above a certain tax bracket, that's when you would pay it back. That's the whole idea of UBI. Nobody gets left behind, because you could be someone that maybe makes $150,000 one year. And if you're basing it off of the income you made last year, maybe this year you're only making 50,000. So where does it make sense if you're going to cut it off at a certain level?
I agree. I think it should be for everybody, in my opinion.
And
Think about it. If you think about it in the terms of, say, a disabled person, okay? I have a disability. It is difficult for me to go to work 5 days a week. It's very difficult for me because by the weekend, I am exhausted. I can't even take care of my home. I live alone. Now, I don't have someone who can pick up on the home duties and, the cleaning and all the other stuff that needs to get done. I'm doing it on my own. I have a disability that is a full-time job to begin with. I work full-time. Now, if we had the universal basic income, maybe for my health, I could cut back on some hours. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still going to work, but I don't have to work that 40-hour work week that's killing me, making me feel, exhausted by the end of the week, and I still just scraping by just enough. That stress level when you have a disability can skyrocket and make your disability even worse. So if there
100%.
was UBI, it would help me to live comfortably without stressing out over money and make my life better and more time to spend with my kids and my grandkids.
Absolutely.
I would just like to say here, excuse me, to Aries, you get disability tax credit with through disability. Not everybody does.
Not everybody
And
qualifies.
please
I don't.
understand that you don't. Exactly. Nor do I. I had it. But you can only get a disability tax credit unless you are someone who, well, and again, they'll only go back 10 years from any diagnosis that you had to give you anything. And if you're not working and you're over the age of 18, then you don't get that. So disability tax credit only is given to people who actually have income. If you're not getting income, they take it from you.
And
that happened to me.
That's right.
I'll add to that as well. Another kind of thing to think about when we're talking about this stuff. My mother has been somebody since I was a kid. Unfortunately, was not able to work. Has been on disability the majority of her adult life. Now that being said, my mother is retirement age. We'll say that. And when she turned 65, in Ontario, they get rid of your disability benefits, as well as a couple other aspects of the disability that she was receiving. So now, and this is a flaw within the system, so I'm making that very clear. This is a flaw that's already there, that now that my mom needs it the most, especially the benefits, given her medications and how much they cost, this is where, like, and again, like, I would love a UBI, and we can sit here and talk about the different aspects and how it should be done, or, how we think best it should be done. But at the end of the day, I still feel it would be better than what we already have, because within the systems that are there supposed to help, there's flaws, there's issues with it, right? Somebody who is later on in life shouldn't have to worry about their medication benefits being cut or their medical benefits being cut when they need it the most, right?
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah,
And
sorry,
the
that's
thing
just
is,
my point.
I was told by CRE when I applied for it, because I'm not working, my dad has to apply for me, and then he would get the money. But see, I'm on age, and I don't want to be, but I can't work right now. So what they're doing is the Alberta government is taking that away from people.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is they're pocketing the $200 from the federal disability tax credit, and what they're doing is taking, if you get the tax credit, they're taking $200 right off your check, and I think that's fucking wrong.
Agreed.
Agreed. Alberta is doing it wrong.
They are very much doing it wrong. But
Alberta has
again,
got a
it
fucking
seems that any of the
shocking leader.
provinces that are conservative led are doing the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yep, exactly. Like I live in Manitoba. We have the NDP government. I love Wab
I
Kinew.
wish.
Everything is going right, and quit asking for him to be PM, because we need him to fix everything in Manitoba first.
Donnie,
come
I
on,
love you.
Dawn, share. Come on.
Fair, that's
People
Not
fair.
yet,
use him.
not yet. We
Oh,
have
please.
lots of poverty problems here. We need
No,
to fix first.
they need
Then
to
I
fix
guess I
that.
gotta
They
move to
need him in
Manitoba.
But no,
I'm going
like
to Manitoba.
that's just the thing. Like when you talk about clawing it back because of this, and you talk about clawing
Yeah.
it back because of that, it takes away anyone that it would help. It really does, and I don't understand the people that say that. Just because you have a disability does not mean you should live in legislative poverty. And
Exactly.
it's not right. Because
I
when
wanted-
you have a disability, your costs are higher than someone who doesn't. You have medication, you have therapies, you have all this stuff that's not covered by the government in any way with your health care. You have to pay for blood tests in Ontario, from what I understand, which is ridiculous. We don't pay for those here in Manitoba.
The one thing I hate about living in Alberta, besides Marlena Smith, because that's what her name is,
Marlena.
that's what she will be
It
called.
is. True.
Yeah, Marlena Smith has made it so that the healthcare system where I live in Alberta, there is one hospital for 68,000 people, and not one neurological specialist for what I need. So now I have to travel 3 hours out of town just to get a neurological test, which I do have to stay at the hospital for a week. How am I going to get there? I don't drive. So now I have
Exactly.
to call my
Yeah,
insurance.
those of us with brain issues shouldn't be driving vehicles, right?
Well,
Like, hi.
And,
Yeah,
and the thing
exactly.
is, but here's the thing. Now I have to get $130, $150 to $170 to get down there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get down there because I don't know
Exactly.
if those shuttle buses. I don't know where to go to get it. I don't like. These are things that should be given in my city, but they don't have enough of the technology that Calgary has. Now I could move to Calgary, but why would I have to move just to go get a medical procedure that's closer,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Well,
last
yeah,
neurological test I did, my mom had to drive me all the way from the city we live in Medicine Hat, all the way to Calgary, and drive all the way back. It shouldn't be like that.
Well, I live in a city that has 7 hospitals in the city. And after years and years and years of PC government health cuts, we have
Mhm.
3 emergency rooms in this city. Only 3 emergency rooms.
Only
And
three
most of
dollars.
them
Only
are
three.
located downtown. Why should I have to travel downtown, pay for parking, when I have a
Right.
hospital not too far away from me, right?
Exactly.
Doesn't make sense, but that's what Wob is doing. He wants to open up the hospital emergency rooms again. Get back to the way it's supposed to be run.
Yeah.
Right.
I-
and-
Well,
and
I
that's
have to
the thing.
ask, is anybody here when we talk about these things with doctors and the hospitals? I'm on a waiting list now for at least, I will be on for 2 years to wait to see to specialists.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't know when during that time period if something isn't going to drastically happen. And oh, that's okay. We'll just bump her off the list because now she doesn't need one, and the next person gets to go. Like that. That's not right.
yeah. So my family doctor retired last year in June. So I've been a year without, almost a year without a doctor, and I'm diabetic. And no one told me that. So I put myself on the list, but I was told like if you're diabetic or anything like that, it's just a couple months wait. However, I have never gotten a call, and I've only just 2 weeks ago was told that I have to call the government and deregister my doctor. Even though he's retired, I have to deregister him before I will get any movement.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. When my
You shouldn't
doctor
have to do that.
when my doctor retired, they automatically removed them as my primary caregiver. So I was
Yeah.
free to find another one.
Yeah,
Like,
I had to call.
Oh,
okay, I have
sorry.
been.
But if you also
am-
kind of getting doctors who aren't doing their job, and I can say, as someone who again had to fight 20 years to get a test
Mhm.
because the doctor wouldn't listen. I have asked to see specialists, and that I was asked, "Do you have insurance?" I was asked by my doctor if I had insurance,
What?
and so
Okay.
yeah, because the person I needed to see would have required to get a product of some type, and so
Oh,
that would have
God.
cost money.
I'm sorry. Are you in Ontario or
I'm in Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia?
I'm born and raised in Nova Scotia.
Okay, so that being said, I went to go get what was it? I went to go get extra insurance on top of what I have through Alberta ACE, the ACE program. They denied me because I'm too fat.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
They're not supposed to.
Nope.
It's illegal.
Yeah, just quickly to add, guys, my own experience, and I'll put this out there. I know now we've got the dental care, and it's being expanded sometime soon, so more people will be eligible and whatnot. However, that's where I'll add my 2 cents, for lack of better words, because under our system, I'm in Ontario. I realize it's different for healthcare across different provinces. However, the fact that dental care has not been considered a form of basic healthcare at this point, like I'm already $4,000 into trying to take care of my health, and I still have probably a good 2,000 more, if not, to spend to finish taking care of my mouth. Where, I'm down. I'm doing better since I had the teeth pulled that I have, but it's really major because I couldn't eat properly, so I ended up down 40 pounds altogether. Malnourished, all that sort of stuff. Did my best to take care of myself, but that's where it's like you're being forced to pay money for something. And again, I realize Ontario is Ontario, and different provinces have different
Manitoba,
ways, right? But when dentistry is private, especially around in rural communities, not myself, but somebody else I know, unfortunately needed assistance, so they were on Ontario Works, and trying to find a dentist for them that would accept the Ontario Works benefit to be able to get the dentistry they needed was impossible, because it's up to dentists whether they want to accept benefits of that sort or not. Where, and that just comes down to the basic healthcare, where we really need to do a hell of a lot better.
Well,
Right.
You think about it. Why does healthcare end at the head? Because
don't know.
technically it ends at the head, right?
Because
Your
you don't
teeth
get eye
aren't
care
covered,
either.
Your eyes aren't covered. Mental health isn't covered.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
your whole body should be covered when it comes to healthcare. We live in Canada. It's not universal healthcare if you're not including the universal body.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the
and
thing.
Agree.
Just
I
for
do-
context on that too, I just want to quickly, guys, 12 or not 12, it's 1-digit percentage of all healthcare spending by the government goes to mental health, right? So
Yep.
when you don't
Right.
have the funding and the facilities to take care of the mental health in the first place, and that's a struggle I'm facing, right? Like I'm on a waiting list to be able to see a professional for different things related to my father. We won't get into that, but this is where, I've been waiting now, what, 6 months to talk to a
Ooh.
professional.
Yeah, like that's
And
not good.
I'm doing okay. I still have to work through the shit, but it's one of those, like, people shouldn't have to wait this long.
Agreed.
Okay.
I myself am okay, but people that are facing more dire mental health issues or crises, I should say,
Right.
what are they supposed to do when there's no support there
See, I
from the beginning?
see. This is where I luck out living in Alberta. Okay, I have to say my psychiatrist is free completely, which that is a godsend because it's $1,000 every session. I think we worked it out. It's expensive, right? Um, my psychologist, I do end up paying like $5-10 a session, but they go off my income, which is good, and I'm happy about that. But here's the thing: I'm not happy with. I went to a counselor, and she looked at me and she says, "Hey, it's okay if you're a math user. We're gonna get you help."
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. But why do you have to be so bad where they will give you help, though? That's my question.
Right.
Like,
And then
I'm
Wow.
missing all of my teeth on the bottom except for the front 6. And that's
right.
Well,
because, yes, I did have dental care, but most of that was 50% only covered. How was I supposed to
exactly,
come up
Dawn.
with the other
But here's the thing:
50%?
Yeah.
why is this
Yeah.
Impossible.
person? And it was just because
Well,
I wasn't wearing my plate. She just kept saying, "It's okay if you're if you're a math addict."
well, I
Why
had
is a
a.
professional asking me that at all?
No,
Well,
professional should
it
never
gets
say
even
that.
worse. It's the fact of the amount of oral cancers, even for non-smokers. This like things happen,
Yep.
and you just don't realize it. And so, oral cancer is devastating. I
Yeah.
had a
Oh,
cousin who had oral cancer, and the reconstructive surgery that was able to be done on his face in order to present as normal as possible. I mean, his face was completely changed, and yes, they
right.
had gotten rid of it at that point, but of course, it had unfortunately spread to other areas. But it's not even just that. But I had my issue, and again, I'm in the same boat as you, Dawn. Mine was again from an accident, which a car accident. I took a blow to the neck, and really like rattled my jaw,
Mm.
which caused all kinds of problems. And the medications that they gave all caused dry mouth. So, even the dentist, when I went in to do a checkup one day, he's using so much more water in my mouth. And he said, "I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to check on something." He pulls out my file and he said, "Well, this makes sense." And I went, "Well, what makes sense?" And he said, I have never seen somebody. I keep using water because the instruments are sticking to your mouth and I have
Yeah.
to pull them off. He said, like the medications you take, he said, have caused all of the issues with your
Mhm.
teeth. He said, you could sit there and he said, like, I can see that you brush, you floss, like I can see all of that, but your issue is coming right from down into this whole thing. So again, dry mouth is a massive thing that people may not realize. And these were
Mhm.
prescription medications, right? So it was not that they were, illicit. There was nothing to that effect. There was nothing that
No.
wasn't legal. These were prescriptions that were handed to me from the doctor and fulfilled at a
See,
pharmacy, right?
and that's
So,
the thing. My
you
teeth
know,
were caused basically genetics. My mother had bad
exact,
teeth. I got her teeth.
yeah,
And also when I was a teenager, like, issue of bulimia, which can
yeah,
destroy the enamel on your teeth, right? And that's something
Mine
that
went
happened when I was
carnation.
a teenager, but I'm paying for it as an adult. And when I
yes,
went to the dentist like 5 years ago, they said, "You've got almost no enamel left on your teeth whatsoever. I
yeah,
don't know if we
yeah,
can save them."
exactly. Well,
Just
again, I had this issue. I had to go in because I had this abscess. I saw someone talking about an abscess in their tooth. And so I did. I knew I had to
Yeah,
go into a hospital. Of course, you don't want to be going in and telling anybody this, right? It's embarrassing.
it's
You don't
very
want to have
embarrassing.
anybody because you can't cover that up. If you don't have the teeth, we can tell you don't have the teeth
yeah,
because your
and
face is completely different. You don't say things properly. Like words don't get pronounced. We know this.
Yep.
And
yeah,
so I actually had a dentist or the ER doctor looked at me and he said, "You don't need a doctor, you need a dentist." To which I replied to him and I said, yeah, you know what? And I can afford you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, this is the attitude that you get from people when they're walking in here. Of course, the handsome ER doctor that he was and everything. You didn't have to worry about your teeth being fixed, did you? I can see they're all capped and straightened here. So
Right.
we are not the same, and your judgment isn't what I need.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You need to put that port in my arm so I can get the IV
So
stowed
I
too.
just
I can
want
get
to
that
quickly touch
medication.
this in, guys, to the election itself, because we need to keep in mind, sorry, there has been certain politicians, whether on the campaign trail or before the election was called, talking about the pharmacare and the dental care, saying that, oh, if this stuff comes out, it's going to get rid of your benefits will be no good, that sort of stuff. And I want to tie into what somebody said, because somebody up on the panel, and I apologize who, had said that, when they got their teeth taken care of or their mouth taken care of, only 50% was covered, right? So this is where, to me, the fact that only 50% was covered, I'm sorry to hear that. But we need to do better as a society, right? Because the fact is, when we're talking about benefits, when we're talking about medical benefits, whether it's dental or otherwise, why is it now not the norm for companies to have benefits for their employees that cover this stuff? And that is the
100%.
biggest issue, right? Especially when we're talking about dental, where so many people have full-time jobs making, whether it's minimum wage or more so, but the vast majority of companies and corporations do not give benefits. And if they do, it's not full benefits anymore, and you still have to pay out of pocket. So for something like dental, that can cost, and again, I can attest to, thousands of dollars to take care of, for somebody making, not making more than, say, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you don't have that extra income. As much as you might need the work done, you don't have the income to spend on getting that work done, right?
Right.
So we need
Exactly.
to do better in terms of holding our politicians and government accountable, to say, hey, and yes, that's a corporate issue in terms of not having benefits, but we need to do better holding our
Yes.
government accountable to say, whether it's through legislation or not, the people need to be taken care of, and it's time to fucking do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, can I say something to Furious right now?
Yeah.
Furious, the most reaching person off the government tax of the welfare system is Polyev. So yes,
Exactly.
Polyev will not be getting any more money if he gets kicked out.
Nobody's
Have the
leeching
day
off
he
the
deserves.
government.
No, I'm not leeching
Polyev
off the
is.
government. Polyev
Well,
is.
Polyev is, but people that are receiving benefits aren't leeching off the
Exactly.
government. They're not making enough to survive, or they can't
Exactly.
make enough to survive. There's a difference.
And
Sorry,
and
I
that's
can't work
the thing.
anymore outside of my home. So there you
I
go.
can't work, and I can work, but not very much.
Yeah, and most people that, whether,
Nobody's
I
doing
hate
it.
saying it this way, but I'm using it as an example, so please keep that in mind. But when people say, you live off government handouts or all that sort of stuff, like even with my situation, again, I'm paying out of pocket, and the government will not do a damn thing for me right now. When the dental benefits expand, sure, I'll probably qualify. And it's not that I don't make money to support myself. I do, right? So conservatives that say, oh, well, you just need to work harder or yada, yada, yada. Well, no. Like, why do we have to work harder to be able to survive?
Right.
Yeah.
How much harder do I have to work?
That's my
I
main
worked
point
3
there.
jobs when I was working.
Well, I'm not going to
So,
say I did. I worked full-time jobs, but I also had children to look after as well.
Mm-hmm.
On my own.
I had to care
support
for an
from the
aging
father.
mother. So
Like, fuck.
Okay,
Sorry,
but
pardon my language.
Furious, here's the thing. I cannot work. It's not an excuse. My medical team will not allow me.
I
So
can't
what am I
work.
supposed to do?
Yeah,
When
and
the
just
medical
quickly,
doctors
Fury,
are telling me, no, you cannot work because you have a condition or you pass the fuck out and you don't know why, I
Yeah,
can't work. I become a liability to that company if they hire
exactly.
me.
Well, it
and-
might be overtaxation, Furious, but maybe let's tax those higher bracket people a little
Well,
bit
and that's-
more
and-
and take away
that
from
was
the
Exactly.
lower brackets.
Yeah, and that was going to be my point to that comment. The fact is, you're right. Maybe we are being overtaxed. but it kind of comes circle around, and I'm not going to get into the energy sector again, but just my point being where corporate people are okay with corporate welfare, right? Because that's what we have right now is corporate welfare.
Exactly.
And I talked about that earlier in terms of subsidies, tax breaks, all that sort of stuff. And that's why if somebody were to get in, I'll use the NDP because it's a massive part of their platform right now. In terms of, you know what, we need to close the tax loopholes, we need to stop the subsidies, and we need to make the companies and corporations pay their fair share along with the rich, right? And if we would actually do so, the government would make more revenue from taxes from actually taxing corporations properly than they ever will from taxing the people, right? And be able to take care of more people, again, people where the expansion of the dental care could be expanded even more, and they could change the criteria so more people could get more tooth issues fixed. And we'd be able to put more money into healthcare in proper ways so we can fix the healthcare system. And the education system would get more money, which means our kids would be better educated and be able to go forward with more knowledge within their noggins, for lack
Yes,
of better
but the
word.
conservatives don't want an educated
No.
people.
Exactly.
No, they want sheeples.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what they want.
And
They
Brent,
don't
drinking
want
the
an
fla- and the
educated
flavor
people
aid
that's going to
of the day.
question the government. They don't like that because when
No.
they question, that's when they start to lose their power, right? And that's
Right.
exactly what happened here in Manitoba. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening right now.
And I'm so proud of you for being in Manitoba and having a wonderful government. I'm so jealous. But here's the thing.
We all are.
Yeah, I
They
know.
they they want us to
You
do
sure you
better.
won't let him go, Don? Donnie,
No,
just
not yet.
no. Come on.
No, not yet.
Come
No, he's
on.
not ready for federal yet.
Sharing is caring.
He's not ready for federal yet.
No,
Leave him
he's
alone.
not ready.
Aw, we could
But
get him
here's the
ready.
thing. Here's the thing. Last night I was on here till about 3-ish. And I'm sitting here and all these people are like, oh, all you need is get 150,000 from the government. I'm waiting for that check.
Not
If I
everybody
had a
does.
well, no, and that's the thing. We were trying to explain to him that happened way back when. And I was like, I'm waiting for that money to hit my account. Like, the fuck is wrong with you people? It's not me asking the government for a handout. It's the government owing money to indigenous people for the fuck shit they
Exactly.
did. Don't
Exactly.
get it twisted. I pay my
People
taxes
twist it.
like everybody else.
People
People
don't
like to
understand
twist
that,
it to
and
suit
they
their
and the
own.
ignorance comes out, unfortunately, when they don't know what they're talking about, Farrell, and you know that. That's just how it goes.
Just
They
like
make
the
the
other night when we
assumptions
were
that
on
they
here.
know, and that's why we never assume, because when you do, it makes an ass of you and me. And the assumptions that people have about others really needs to stop.
They need to see the fuck out of my business, leave me the fuck alone, and let me keep on my path because I'm sorry. I'm done explaining my existence to people. I'm not doing it anymore.
And I'm saying, I worked majority of my adult life, but there are certain times where I needed assistance, and I was on assistance when I had children. When my marriage split up, I was left with nothing but debt. I had to go on assistance. I had 2 little ones under the age of 5. I had no choice. So
And
I did
that's
it.
not something
They took care of me. I got off of assistance. I got a job. I lucked out. I got a decent union job. I'm lucky. I can say that. I'm very lucky. I got a good union job, good benefits, but the benefits, like I said, only went up to 50% for dental. I suffered. My children didn't. My children were covered 100%. I wasn't. And now I'm paying for that because actually this morning, I have a dentist appointment to go down and get fitted for my lower dentures. That's going to cost me at least $800 out of pocket.
Oh.
And that's something I have to pay off over the next few months in order to get those done. But why should I have to? It's dental.
That's
I can't
ridiculous.
eat. I can't eat raw vegetables because I don't have any bottom teeth.
No, you don't.
You know, I can't eat the healthy foods. I have to eat the processed foods. And there goes
Or the
problem.
oversoft ones and all the other things that
Exactly.
don't, or you have to drink everything through a straw. And good luck with that, because that's not fun either.
I was just going to say,
Right?
and that's the sort of
You know exactly what I'm
circumstances.
talking about, Moose. Like, that's not cool. And trust
Yeah,
me,
and
I remember having to do that. Like,
And,
yeah,
and that's the
that's not fun.
circumstances, right? Where
Well,
even
that's it.
when, like I get told, and I already started where it was, hey, I need to worry about nutrition supplements. So I started buying boosts
Exactly.
and stuff like
That's
that.
expensive.
But the problem is when you go buy that sort of stuff, it's more expensive than it would to go and buy the normal stuff. So now you're putting more money out of pocket to try and keep yourself healthy.
Yep. And
Exactly.
I still have to pay for my upper dentures. I still don't
Oh
have
my
those. Half of
God.
those teeth are
Oh,
gone.
Donnie.
You know?
I feel your pain, girl.
Oh my God, Chad. There are 91% of all clean drinking water finished. Stop with the bullshit.
It's just conservative talking points is all that is.
Yeah. Chad, be respectful and contribute. Don't just tell people to get a job, or I will mute you.
I have a job, Chad. Piss off. That's rude.
It is rude. But I expect nothing less from what the comments are. You know, they match up.
Bad society. Why do we want to live in such a poor society? Why aren't we taking care of our people 100% like we're supposed to be? That's
Why
what
isn't the
Canada.
government?
That's what Tommy Douglas wanted. Everyone to be taken care of completely.
Yeah.
He was the father of our healthcare system. Like, hello. Why should you pay for me? I pay for you. I pay my taxes.
I pay my taxes.
Anybody who's getting money still pays taxes. We all pay taxes.
I just paid my taxes on Friday.
I paid over $10,000 in taxes 2 years in a row. Don't tell me to pay my fucking taxes because I've done it.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to this, sorry guys, just quickly, but comparison I want to make, I believe it was Edmonton in Alberta that they had that water main issue.
No, that was Calgary.
Calgary. Okay, so Calgary had that water main issue. And one of the biggest concerns was water quality because of that water main break. And I want to point out how quick they were. Yes, there was delays. Yes, there was, a bit of a debacle, but how quick they were. Now, my question is to, I believe it's Chad in the comments, when it comes to that stuff, just for an example, why was it done so quick for a city like that, but yet Indigenous have been fighting for decades to have the same urgency when it comes to their drinking water and how safe it is?
I'll tell you why,
Boom,
Moose.
100%.
Moose, I'll tell you why. Because it's a city. They don't want the city to have bad water because the majority
Oh
of the
no,
groundwater
I realize this, Marshy. I'm putting the question out there to Chad because this is where we're all human beings and we all deserve clean drinking water. So why is it such a issue for one area as opposed to another that has been fighting for decades to have the exact same standard?
Oh, it's more than decades. It's at least 4 decades we've been fighting. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. No, I'm not. You're never gonna find me argue with you. But there's some things like last night or earlier this morning. It was me and this guy talking. He's like, "Well, why do you think this and this and this and this?" Okay, dude. Just because you grew up with and around Indigenous people, that gives you proximity. You don't know, nor can you speak on Indigenous issues. I can.
Why not free dental? Why not free schooling? Why not?
Yeah.
Why
not
not?
make
It helps
our
society.
better?
Yeah. And Chad, I know actually some people say about this, but Marlowe's hierarchy of needs shows that if we all have everyone's basic needs taken care of, people then can progress up the ladder and produce, well, not just produce, but contribute more to society. So if
Exactly.
we're holding people down and they can't afford dental care or they can't afford schooling, they're just going to end up draining more resources from society.
And just quickly, again, just to, and then I'm going to be quiet for a little bit, but just quickly to Chad again, you talked about how, Indigenous people, once they turn 18, got over 300K. Has anyone here gotten that? And my answer to you, or my comment to you on that specific comment, it is their money. Where's the issue? It's not government money. That is money that was set aside, has nothing to do with the government. It is their money. So when
It's
you
from a
want to piss
trust.
and moan about something that's their own money, go find out better what you're talking about and then come back and have a conversation. Okay? Thank you.
It's from a trust. It's got nothing to do with our tax money. That is money
It
that
is
is
their
theirs.
money. Dude, stop talking on Indigenous issues. You're not an Indigenous person.
You got no
I
right to
am.
talk about it.
I'm
You
the
know,
only Indigenous
Chad,
person on this panel. Stop.
It's
not a
not a
product of
product
others'
of
sweat.
anybody else. It's a
Oh
trust.
my.
It's been there since whenever, and it's money that has been owed to the Indigenous people for decades, for centuries, that has been kept from them.
Y'all have fun. I'm not sticking around for this shit because this fuck stick knows nothing about my life.
No,
Okay, he's been muted now, so
thank
I've had
you.
it. I don't mind. So, well, actually, here I'm going to take this opportunity because I only have a couple minutes left. So, I don't mind people having opposing views. What I do mind is people who don't contribute to the conversation and just are saying things to gaslight people. So that's not going to go well in my life. Second, I'm here only for 5 more minutes and then I have to go to work. So I just want to welcome everyone who's popping in. Good morning. Welcome to Election Day. Please go vote if you haven't. Offer lifts to people if they need to go vote. Remind your friends, coworkers, neighbors, etc. We were here all day, all the way until I think probably 11 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be here going over the results, laughing, maybe crying, hopefully not crying. Yeah,
Crying
so
happy
stay
tears,
with us.
Crying happy tears, maybe.
Yeah, crying happy tears. That's a hope. But yeah, and just remember, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring, and yeah, pop in throughout the day. What else? Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say right now.
Well,
Is, yeah,
thank you for letting me up today. I do appreciate you giving me the time to speak.
Oh well, thank you for coming up and speaking. We, you had some great points, and you're certainly welcome back if you ever want.
Thank you. Well, you guys have a great day. I got to go shower. I got that appointment to get ready for and take my
Well,
granddaughter to school. So I
have
wish you all the best.
I wish you
You
all the
too.
best.
Have a good
Too.
day.
Hey,
Bye.
before everybody leaves,
Yes.
hey, good morning, Canada, and happy election day, everybody.
Yes.
I'm
I'm
like
going to
severely
be
gonna throw up
Sean,
right now.
you'll be closing down your live, and I'll be bopping on, and that's how
Yep.
this is going to transition into
Mm-hmm.
the next part. But I woke up thinking, and this may be just an older reference for some, but I was like, "Good morning, Canada." I love the smell of politics in the morning. I don't know if everybody gets the reference there, but I'm looking forward to this day. I'm sure it's going to be lively conversation on TikTok all day long.
And wasn't that the late great Robin Williams who said that in the
Oh,
movie?
yes.
Good morning, Canada.
Good morning, Vietnam. But also, Robert De Niro in Apocalypse Now said he loves the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yes.
I
Oh my
love the
God.
smell of politics in the
As
morning. Here it is, 5 a.m. where I'm at.
Ew.
Yeah,
It's 7 a.m. here.
yeah. Hit the
6 a.m.
ground.
here.
Okay, so I'm going to bop down, and when you're done and shut down, anybody who wants to hang out for a bit of conversation with me is more than welcome. I'll be on right when you close down.
Actually, Mrs., do
What?
you mind maybe taking over now to give me maybe 2 minutes to go to the bathroom before I start work?
Oh yeah. Well,
Is that okay?
you're just bopping right out, aren't you? Out of the Beaver Network, and then yeah,
Yeah,
or
and you just go live. So we'll you'll if you want to come back, you'll just have to wait 2 minutes, people, to come back. But yeah, I'll bop down, and then you just
yeah, you
do
guys
your thing.
have your work day.
Yep, exactly. And I'll be back later tonight with everyone else.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate you taking this and taking this early morning shift, so to speak, at the Beaver Marathon. Okay, so I'll pop down so you can do your thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go, everyone. I'll see you later tonight. Thank you for everyone who did pop up. We had a great conversation. I love listening to all your points. Anyways, go vote. See you later.